What's going on, Falcon fan? This is your boy Ricondo. Come back at you with another video. So today, guys, we're gonna talk about the GM interviews that have taken place. We're just gonna emphasize the guys that they actually was interviewed. I talked about those on the last video, but we'll just go back over those guys real quick and talk about. And then they brought in another guy that a lot kind of brought a lot of people by surprise. So we'll talk about him as well. We'll also talk about the players that got kind of recognized at the end of the season, guys. It's the end season awards that comes out for defensive rookie of the year and offensive player of the year. So we'll definitely talk about those guys. Um, then we'll get into a little free agency of our own guys. Last time I talked about guys that I think the Falcons should keep, but we were trying to get a kind of talk about the strategy that I think the Falcons probably going to be looking at moving forward here this off season. So, guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys are here to talk about. And please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people, that's right, more people can come hear me talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So, wait just a minute. All right, guys. So it was announced today that Atlanta Falcons have interviewed 5 coaches so far. Um, I'm trying to keep update with it, make sure that they haven't interviewed the new guy that they actually requested an interview from last night, and that was the former GM for the New York Jets. Yes, guys, the New York Jets. And everybody's like, "What are we doing?" Right? So that's one of the things that when you look at it, you look at it and you just kind of shaking your head. One thing about all these guys that you looked at, and we talked about it on the last video that we had on Wednesday night, was the fact that a lot of these guys come from, you know, have ties to the last 2 Super Bowl champs, right? The Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs, um, New England Patriots, the Pittsburgh Steelers, all these teams that had sustained success for years and years and years. And you getting guys that have seen it done, see how they build teams and things like that. Um, all the guys that Atlanta Falcons are interviewing has had success. So you like to see that. You love to see the these guys have the ability to go out and going through this process, and it's not hasty, right? Usually, you know, the organization have a guy in mind. They so got tunnel vision and they focus on that guy, and initially that's what we thought. We thought Atlanta Falcons, it was tunnel vision on 2 guys here, and it was Josh Williams and Ian Cunningham, which either one of those guys I think would have been went awesome. But the fact that they're taking this process serious, and they're really going out and making sure 100% that they got the guy that they feel is going to be, in line with Matt Ryan and the new head coach Kevin Stefanski. It's the way to go. It just is. What you really want to do is make sure that before you actually, you know, come in this partnership together, because this is a new regime, right? We keep talking about this Atlanta Falcons team, um, and making it seem like that it's the old Falcons, right? And without a doubt, if you look at where Arthur Blank decided to do this offseason, he turned the page on the way he used to do business, right? He moved up, he got rid of Rich McKay, um, he got rid of the old regime. And first of all, guys, we have to tip our hat off to Terry Fontenot, right? A lot of us didn't really want to see him go. You know, the record is what it is. But when you look at the moves that Terry Fontenot had made during his tenure, of the personnel that he brought in, and the reason why this team is so attractive in the first place is because the way that Terry Fontenot helped build this team. It's no doubt about that. So, um, you know, the team is set up for success right now, right? Still question mark at the quarterback position, but you look at all the other pieces, the team is set up. So you have to tip your head out to him, right? And like if you're looking right now, nobody's talking about the first round pick that Atlanta Falcons don't have this year. And we're going to get into that today about the two guys, the reason why nobody's talking about that. But man, you have to be impressed about this process that Atlanta Falcons going through, right? However you look at it, decide if they brought in the right guy or not. You have to respect the process, right? And sometimes you're not going to get the guy that you want, right? Because you thought this guy was the next best thing, thing like this. You already had your head wrapped around. And it's really interesting, right? Because I'm just curious, like the fan base, um, how many people really knew about Clint Kubiak before the whole coaching cycle? We knew somebody. Now, if you watch my channel, you knew about it because Mr. John Moreno talked about him all the time, right? He talked about Clint Kubiak, he talked about the Kubiaks and things like that. But a lot of people probably hadn't even heard of Clint Kubiak. So you get this guy that you think is the next big hot coach, and everybody's talking about him, and you think that's who the Atlanta Falcons should go get, right? And I think he was on the list. I think he was on the list, but he might did not meet all the criteria that they have. Like when they're looking at the coach they want to bring in, to kickstart this new era of Atlanta Falcon football, they probably had the checklist. And one of the things might have been experience, right? Knowing how to build a staff, right? And from what we've seen so far, we think Kevin Stefanski is doing a really good job with that. Um, Only one, question mark of a hire so far, and that's Tommy Reese. But to me, that's just more about familiarity and you know the guy who has had experience, right? I think is to me, in my opinion, I think it's a better hire than Zach Robinson, a guy who had never called plays before. You got like Tom Reese who has, right? He has called plays in college and he has called plays in the pros. So he had experience, building a game plan, trying to put a game plan together to compete against a certain defense. So to me, I think that's more than what we got in the 2 years ago when Raheem started bringing in Zach Robinson, right? Who's and I don't want to take nothing away because in my opinion, honestly, I think Zach Robinson, is going to be really good eventually. I just think when you bring in a coach and when you had a team to win right now, right then, you want to be able to bring somebody in that has that have some knowledge, knowing how to put a game plan together. In this case, Kevin Stefanski could only call his own plays. He could utilize, Tommy Reese to help put the game plan together. But at the end of the day, Kevin Stefanski can sit out there and dial up the plays and make sure everything is going like it's going to go. So, um, you know, this GM hire, in my opinion, is really important, right? Because it's going to lay out the way this new era for Atlanta Falcon football is pretty much going to look for the next couple of years, right? Some of the decisions they make this year moving forward. So, like I said, the Atlanta Falcons, it already been reported that they interviewed Ian Cunningham, they interviewed Josh Williams, they interviewed James Lifford, they interviewed Mike Bradway, and they interviewed Andy Will. So they interviewed all those guys. Now, they did request to interview Joe Douglas, right? He was the other guy that a lot of people was like, I think before you guys heard his name, you guys was like, okay, I like the candidate so far. Joe Douglas is a guy that had a little success in Jets. He had more success when he was not a GM, right? If you go look at his career, in the front office. Most of his time was with the Philadelphia Eagles, and what the Philadelphia Eagles organization stand for and stuff. That's probably why he was allowed to, advance his career and go to the New York Jets. But however, the New York Jets, he had a couple hits there, of course. Some of his picks and things like that, acquisitions. But for the most part, it didn't go as well as they wanted, and that could be because the organization is just not ran well. So, because even though he's gone now, and the organization still is having issues. It's to the point where Aaron Glenn is having trouble trying to get coordinators to come in there to help him coach that team. So just look at it, and sometimes that's the way it is in certain organizations. They're not ran real well, and everything trickles down. Right, it starts at the top, and it trickles down to if you're going to have success or whatever like that. So that's the way you look at it. So man, I just like the fact that Atlanta Falcons decided to go ahead and take time in this process. I know it's a little frustrating because they have not named their GM yet, but remember, they have no competition right now in this area, so they can definitely take their time. A lot of people wonder why they hired the coach first. You see why, because team coaching vacancy was open. Man, you want to make sure you get your guy that you think can lead this team instead of trying to settle for something that you was not really looking to hire at the time. So um, that's why I think the Atlanta Falcons jumped on Kevin Stefanski because at the time, he was the second best coach on the market. Now I know a lot of people might want to say Sean McDermott now is that guy, but I don't know if he would have fit what the Atlanta Falcons looking for. Like I said, we don't know their criteria and their checklist that they had to bring in the head coach, and it sounds like Kevin Stefanski met most of those criteria and met the checklist for them to do that. But we'll see if they get to the interview of Joe Douglas today. If they do, that will be awesome. And then we'll see how everything works out for um, Kyle Smith, the guy that the Atlanta Falcons had as they um trying to see what position he hold with the Falcons because now he's actually going to the Miami. He's going to be the assistant GM for the Miami Dolphins. Um, and I'll be honest with you, Kyle Smith, he has to be commended as well the way he worked with the Atlanta Falcons as well to be able to so there you have it. There you have it. There you have it. Right. So before we get into let me get into some of these comments real quick. Um what's up? I ain't seen you. I heard from you in a minute, man. What's going on? What's going on? Hello, hello, Natasha. How you doing? I'm doing good. What about you? And that go my man Eddie. What's up, man? What's going on? What's going on? All right. So before I get into um the other stuff I want to talk about today, I want to talk about because it's still noise around the Atlanta Falcon fan base about this hire, right? And you know, it's so much noise that people have to come in and chime in and try to give you know um a little information about what actually happened in Cleveland, which in my opinion they should not have to do that. They just should not have to do that because right, like I said, it's not like Atlanta Falcons really fast went out and hired Kevin Stefanski. They did through a process, man. They interviewed 10 coaches and they went through this process. So the idea that they just went out and hired anybody, um, and I think the biggest issue I have with this whole conversation going on Twitter about the Atlanta Falcons hire is the fact that people feel like they made this decision other than just it's a football decision. That's what it's all about. People may think they made it because they need to make it because of a culture thing and things like that. It's about winning games. Arthur Blank said, but when he hired Matt Ryan, that position was for one reason only, and that was winning football games. So when they make decisions, it's about that, right? And you guys, a lot of these guys want to put around and talk about, everybody talk about the little clip that DC Young Fly did. Cam Newton put his little information in it, talking about NFC South is the HBCUs of the NFL. I like just ridiculous coming from people that you think knows football, right? That you like, I thought you know football, but you're trying to make it a black and white thing or a race kind of thing, a cultural thing, and it has nothing to do with that. It's about winning football games, And if people can take out their personal feelings and be objective, because see, this the thing, guys. If you know anything about me, I love Deion Sanders, and I watch Shedeur, and I think Shedeur should have went first round. But they have nothing to do with the Atlanta Falcon organization. It's so crazy that this is the conversation. But with that being said, Aditi Kumawale got on 92.9 The Game, the Atlanta Falcons radio show, and she broke down exactly what Kevin Stefanski did for Shedeur, for Dylan, right? With all those 5 quarterbacks he had, because he had rookie quarterbacks, he actually spent extensive one-on time with both quarterbacks. Mondays and Fridays, he actually created another time period to spend with his young quarterbacks, right? With Dylan and Shedeur, both of those guys. And then once they became starters, he spent one-on-one time with those guys to make sure that the game plan they were putting together fitted their skill set so they can be successful. This is a report from her. She was with the team during this time, right? This right here helps us understand the kind of relationship that Kevin Stefanski might have with a guy like Michael Penix Jr. This is important. This is important information. So the whole idea that he didn't help Shedeur, he set Shedeur up. That's not true. It's not true at all. We was all fooled because I'm one of the ones thought he did get screwed over. But when you look into this reporting, you understand that the way he kind of tailored it for his quarterbacks, right? Especially in this instance, because they actually went out and did the crazy thing and drafted 2 rookie quarterbacks in the same season, right? When you had three veteran quarterbacks on your team already, it's just insane the way to look at it like that. But the fact that this is how it took place, and like sometimes we're not gonna get all the insides and details. We on the outside, we're trying to anticipate, and trying to determine and create assumptions what's going on. But at the same time, this is what was taking place in the back scene, in the background, and that's good, right? We didn't have to know all this, but I think somebody put this out because of all this stupid noise that's going around the Atlanta Falcons fan base, to the point where you got to try to defend the guy. And what really gets me is that everybody was so excited when Matt Ryan got hired as president of football, right? He made this pick, and all of a sudden you turn on him as well, and you try to make it a black and white thing, and it's not a black and white thing at all. So I just had to say that. Hopefully by the end of this weekend, this conversation is over, because it's a mute point. It's not going to matter in the first place because they already made the hire. If you're a real Falcon fan, you want the Falcon fans to do well no matter who the coach is, right? That's what it's all about. You're about the team. So that's what you want to see success. So you want to hope and pray that all this stuff works out the way it is, instead of wishing it don't, because it's like you want the teams, to fail. So hopefully that's not what we're doing here with this in this situation. But I just wanted to put that out because um, Miles Garrett reported. Then I actually went back and listened to the conversation that she had with 92.9 The Game today, and she pretty much laid out all the details of how he were with quarterbacks. We got to remember that he had 13 different starting quarterbacks during his tenure there. 13 different quarterbacks. 6 of those quarterbacks was black. Just say that 6 of those quarterbacks was black. 13 different quarterbacks. 6 was black. And during this time, he went to 2 playoff games. You know what's so interesting about that? He was with the Cleveland Browns less than Atlanta Falcons have been out of the playoffs. 8 seasons. And Kevin Stefanski took a team to the playoffs twice during that time. And we up here upset because they trying to win football games and make a football decision. And because you don't like the decision about something that has nothing to do with Atlanta Falcons, I'm telling you guys, make sure you look at it from a football standpoint. You went to the playoff twice. The Atlanta Falcons ain't been in the playoff in 8 seasons. He's been in the playoffs twice already. 2 coaches a year doing that same period of time. And we are trying to not understand that this is a football decision, more of it about your feelings and your emotions and things like that. Look at it from that standpoint. That's the last time I'm going to talk about it. Hopefully, we can get back to our regularly scheduled program to talk about Atlanta Falcons being better in 2026 and in the future. That's what I want to talk about. I just wanted to bring that up. Last time, hopefully, we have to have this conversation. Jamel Hill got involved and she getting killed on Twitter. Like, she should have stayed out of it. She's not even from Atlanta. Like, I don't understand the narrative that was going around that didn't even have to be created in the first place. So I just wanted to put that out. Um, so hopefully, all our fans kind of get on board eventually, right? I get it. You didn't get your guy. You think it was a bad hire, but look at it from a football standpoint and try to open your eyes and see if this is going to be something that we can work with moving forward. So there you go. There you go. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right, guys. Let's get into our our 3 players that got recognized um this actual week. 2 of those guys. Let's start with the 2 rookies, right? We have 2 guys. They have 5 finalists for defensive rookie of the year. The Atlanta Falcons have 2 guys on that list. 2 guys on that list. They got 5 finalists. Atlanta Falcons got 2 guys on that list. Those 2 guys, Xavier Watt and James Pierce Jr., was part of a trade with the Los Angeles Rams for the Atlanta Falcons to move back up in the first round to get a draft, where the Los Angeles Rams gave the Atlanta Falcons the 27th pick, and they gave the Atlanta Falcons a 3rd round pick in exchange, right? So, with that being said, the Atlanta Falcons was able to draft James Pierce Jr., who had 10 and a half sacks this year, right? I think he had 10 tackles for a loss. Don't quote me on that because I'm just trying to remember right off the bat what it was. And the last rookie to have 10 or more sacks in a season was Michael Parsons, right? So that says a lot. So what I'm telling you is the Atlanta Falcons got a home run with the number 27 overall pick that they came back into the draft with. But however, to put icing on the cake, they got Xavier Watts as well, which guy led the rookies in the interception. He had 5 interceptions. He led the team in interceptions, 5 interceptions, right? So they got 2 for 1. And so once again, we have to take our hat off to Terry Fontenot and company, right? Because they the ones decided to do this. So yes, the Atlanta Falcons will not have a draft pick this year. I think the Los Angeles Rams have the 13th overall pick, so they will be picking twice in the first round this year. Knowing them, their GM, they might move back out of the draft, right? Because that's what they do. They like to build their team the right way. That's how they do business. But when you're thinking about it, yes, 13th pick would have been nice. But I think if the Atlanta Falcons look and say, well, we got 2 guys for our first round pick in 2026, we're going to be good, right? Because those guys could be guys that's going to be here for a long time, that's played well, and then to put icing on the cake, you expect guys to have a jump from year 1 to year 2 because they don't have to worry about going through scouting combines, doing all these pro days and things like that, right? They can get their body right, get in the routine, and be better coming into year 2 than they was in year 1. So, because the rookies, man, they have a long season, right? From coming from playing from college to going to these all-star games to like doing their pro days, trying to stay in shape for combine, all this stuff they got to get prepared for, then go right into OTAs, mini camp, and then the training camp, right? This time they got all this time off. Last game was beginning of January. They don't go back to OTAs to the end of March, right? And then mini camp and all that. So they got time to actually have an off season this year. That's what's gonna make these guys better. So the Atlanta Falcons got two guys, right? Two guys for price of one, and both of those guys was recognized for finalists for Defensive Player of the Year. Now, in my opinion, I think James Pierce Jr. should get it. Now, I know the kid from Cleveland, is Darius Will, the young linebacker. He had a great year. He really did. I'm not taking anything away from him. I don't know what a dual Carter did to get on the list because he was the number one pass rusher that was taken off the board, and yes, James Pierce Jr. I rushed him. So that's impressive, man. I love that about what this Atlanta Falcons team was building, and for have both of those guys as defensive rookies of the year as finalists is really impressive, man. It just tells you, like I said once again, why this job for any coach was attractive. It really is, man. It really is. Um, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Now let's get to something that we probably not surprised by at all, and I don't think he's going to win it because there was some guys on the list that had really really good years, um, and that's but John Robinson um, was nominated finalist for Offensive Player of the Year. Now he had almost 2,300 all-purpose yards, but you look at a guy like JSN who's still playing, had an outstanding career. I mean, outstanding year. Christian McCaffrey had an outstanding year. Um, those guys, Puka Nakua, outstanding year, right? So it's a lot of guys that's on that list that Bijan's going to be going up against. And if you look at those guys, some of those guys are still playing right now in the playoffs, and so it'll be hard for Bijan to get it. However, if he did get it, you shouldn't have any complaints because, like I said, he's on the top five of most yards in one season. You know, so it's impressive, man. It really is. So we all know he's the engine on the offensive side, right? But to have those three guys, up for awards, just tell you about the talent on this team. And we're not talking about all the other guys. You're talking about, all pro Chris Lindstrom, his fourth time being named all pro, right? Probably one of the best guards in the league. Um, Kyle Pitts had an all pro season himself. Second team all pro, you know, breakout year since his rookie season. This season actually probably better than his rookie season because he had more touchdowns this season. In that first season, he only had one touchdown. He had over 1,000 yards, but he only had one touchdown. This year, he had almost 1,000 yards and five touchdowns. So you have to tip your head off to the season that Kyle Pitts had, and that's what I really, really, really like about um, what the Atlanta Falcons, got going. Say what the Atlanta Falcons is cooking, right? That's what I love to say. Let's see here. Eddie says, "Bro, let people talk. The team knows the best." Yeah, I know. I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm done talking about it. I'm done talking about it. Um, what's up? What's up, man? Who's this? We are getting off MVP. I take that back because the voters always like playoff guys. Yup. Yep. So like I said, playoffs. Whoever's in the playoffs probably gonna win it. I actually think that that Matthew Stafford gonna win MVP. I know they probably should already voted for the regular season, but the performance Matthew Stafford had, vice the performance that um, Drake May had. Drake May didn't have a good game at all. He did not have a good game at all. He did not have a good game at all. Actually lucky. CJ Stroud had just had the worst game to him. Um, that's the reason I think Matthew Stafford gonna win it, right? And then you look at the numbers, touchdown to interception ratio. Matthew Stafford had a MVP season, and it'll be his first one, man. And he's still my pick to go to the Super Bowl. Yes, I got the Rams beating Seahawks in Seattle this weekend. If you didn't know, now you know. So we'll see how that pans out for these guys. Um, but there you go. So guys, the last thing I want to talk about today is free agency, right? And I talked about it a little bit last video, right? I talked about the guys that I think they should prioritize and keep those guys. But what I didn't know, and I just heard about this, because I listened to a video today, they got a lot of free agents that the Atlanta Falcons need to really look at and retain, or they need to make sure they come up with a game plan. It's, to me personally, it's going to be really interesting because the new regime don't know any of these free agents. They don't know these guys. So, now on the defense side, they got somebody that was there. So Jeff Albrecht can definitely, put his 2 cents in and think of who he should bring back and things like this. But other guys that Leonard Floyd, I didn't realize he was going to be a free agent. Like I said, Armor Ebiketie, D. Alford, David Onyemata is going to be a free agent. I didn't realize that. So like K. Nellis is going to be a free agent. That's 5 guys that actually started for Atlanta Falcons at some point this season. Like that's a lot of defense. So we like what we saw in defense this year, but the fact that when you're looking at the free agency, and the Atlanta Falcons money, because it's not like they got a lot of money, right? But they're gonna have to make some decisions on which one of these guys to prioritize. So of course, I already mentioned the ones I definitely prioritize: Kate Nellis and Kyle Pitts. Um, Tyler Algier, like I said, for me, Tyler Algier, I think he should go get his money. So if he get his money, that's good. If he don't get his money, um, that's just the way it is. But when you looking at this Atlanta Falcons team, the free agency is going to be really important, and that's why they have to nail this GM position down, right? Because and it's like to me, it's like unknown, right? Hopefully, these GMs are studying this team already, and coming up with some kind of plan how they want to move forward. Free agency is going to be probably um, what kind of mindset are we thinking the Atlanta Falcons are trying to go with this year? I mean, what they do at the quarterback position is probably one of the most fascinating things to look at, right? Um, for reasons, because of who we hired as a head coach, um, how Kirk Cousins restructured his contract now to made it more likely that he's going to be cut. But when you have that chemistry and that familiarity with Kevin Stefanski, it's different, right? It's starting way to start to look at it and see where they actually decide to make a different move there. But then you also don't know exactly when Michael Penix coming back, and if he's going to be back before training camp, maybe you're like, well, we don't have to worry about Kirk Cousins because we're going to have our starting quarterback back. So it's some of the things. It's just so much to think about. Um, and free agency is just the icing on the cake, and you have to take care of your own free agents first, right? Because if you want to try to keep some of that success you had, you want to try to keep some of those guys, right? Now, with Kyle Pitts in particular, we know that Kevin Stefanski loves to run 13 and 12 personnel. So Kyle Pitts is, the type of guy that he wants to keep, and he does utilize his tight ends. You go back and look at what he did at Cleveland with David Njoku and Fanning, right? He uses tight end, so it's not like those guys won't like Kyle Pitts won't be getting touches because he's utilized in the pass game. I think he utilized more than what the Jack Robinson utilized his tight end. Now you go back to Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith loved to utilize his tight ends. That was not something that you had to worry about, to say at least. But um, Kevin Stefanski is going to utilize his tight ends. He's going to use 12 personnel, 12 and 13 personnel, and man, you can do so much out of that. So much out of that, right? Especially when you got a pass catching tight end like a Kyle Pitts, right? Because now you put the advantage on the offense 100% because they're going to be in base, right? They're going to be in base when you do that, right? When you put those guys in base, first of all, you got to worry about Bijan in the backfield, right? That's one thing. But now you got to worry about mismatch that Kyle Pitts can create from the tight end position. So it's going to be interesting how they put this team together. I know they're working hard. They're working, doing their due diligence now, looking at everything, making sure that they have a really, really good, solid game plan. The GM is going to be important. That's why it's so important that they went in and interviewed 5 of those guys today. Hopefully, we don't know. We heard that they talking about, the second interviews next week. So we might not hear nothing until after Kevin Stefanski actually do his interview on Tuesday, right? So it's just so much things that's going on with the organization. So much exciting things. Some of the things that I talked about on Wednesday that make me, just so anxious to see how this season roll out. This season for the NFL, it matches WNBA. I mean, not WNBA, NBA free agency 100%. It matches NBA free agency. Um, the off season for the NBA. It does this season because there's so many um, different teams that have to reset, right? And some of these teams, have the rosters to compete right away, right? I mean, if you look at the Baltimore Ravens, you look at the Buffalo Bills, you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? All those teams, you know, Pittsburgh Steelers and Buffalo Bills was in the playoffs. Baltimore one game out of there, um, just like the Falcons, right? Just like the Falcons one game out of it. Um, Now you do have some rebuilding teams that's out there, but for the most part, it's some teams that can make some improvements and be in a whole different, spot next year going into the playoffs. So hopefully we're able to see that and and see how they're gonna build this team. We don't know yet. Once we get official who's going to be official answer, who's going to be our GM, maybe we can start to think about it more and build more on it. I see that. So I just I'm bear with me, guys. I'm looking to make sure no more news don't come out, or we can stay up to date. Because if anything do else come out, I can come back on here and talk about it again. But it looks like that is not the case. That is not the case. All right. And like I said, man, listen to talking heads on TV, and people having their opinions and stuff like that. Let's look at it from the fan base perspective, where we know this team in and out. We root for this team, right? We watch all the games. We probably can critique this team better than anybody. And for people that you know, sometime it get a blurb here, blurb there. You know, now Atlanta Falcons was on prime time five games, and I can tell you this: all 5 of those games, Atlanta Falcons played well. They really did. They really did. So we put the world on notice. We didn't embarrass ourselves doing those 5 games. We didn't win all of them, but we definitely um, played well. Matter of fact, I only think we lost one. That was to the 49ers. I think we won the rest. So, there you have it. Atlanta Falcons is a primetime team. Make sure they do the same thing next year. Um, it was going to be a short video, guys. I just wanted to keep you guys up to date to the GM interviews. I want to talk about the players recognition, because we have to recognize those 3 guys for their accomplishments. It'd be nice if we have a clean sweep with defensive record of the year and the offensive player of the year. However, I don't think definitely offensive player of the year, probably not, but defense player of the year, rookie of the year, maybe they have a chance with that. We'll see. We'll have to see. And if they do, how about that? The Atlanta Falcons have completed an interview with Joe Douglas, so they have. So I'm glad I'm glad I seen it. So the Atlanta Falcons have completed all 6 interviews for all the guys that they requested to talk to. So now just a matter of time, guys. They completed all 6 interviews. The question is, are they going to conduct second interviews for these guys? If that's the case, it probably will be next week, right? After the playoffs and things like that. They bring in guys, they're finalists, to come in and talk with these guys more. Or they might go ahead and decide, they heard all 6 guys' pitches for how they can help this team. See if the collaboration with the other 2 guys, Matt Ryan, Kevin Stefanski, all line up, and they might pick their guys sometime this weekend. We just don't know, but they have interviewed all 6 guys, so that is good news, right? We can finally kind of get an idea of how this team is going to be, built, right? Because you got to build your team up, man. We all know team is not going to be the same from one year to the next, and this is the first of this new era for Atlanta Falcons to actually put something together. So that's that's what I want to see. All right, all right, all right, all right. So guys, thank you for tuning in today. Quick video, even though it was 40. I say quick video, but it's still 40 minutes of me sitting here blabbering my mouth about everything Atlanta Falcons. Thank you guys for tuning in. Um, Hopefully we hear something about the GM spot here soon. And if you have not already, go ahead and congratulate all 3 of those guys on their success um, of being recognized and letting people know that we got people too, right? We got some talent on our squad as well. And it's a young team that has a lot of potential. And hopefully Matt Ryan made the right decision and Kevin Stefanski can let that potential shine bright like it's supposed to. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.